Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship, being held at the virtual setting of Little Budworth, Cheshire, just around 13 miles from Chester Town Centre here at the Oulton Park Island Circuit. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me once again, a man that breathes and lives touring cars, Mr. Phil Kinch. Evening, Phil.
Good evening, sir. How are we doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Well, we're at the halfway point of the season. It's getting very interesting at the top of the standings. The top 5 drivers separated by around about 32 points coming into these 3 races here at Oulton Park. And in many respects, it still means that when we go to our mid-season break, as we'll return on the 18th of August at round 6 at Snetterton 300, it's going to be a very different affair here as it was opposed to when we were literally flying around Thruxton just a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
It is a complete different stance almost. Thruxton's high speed, hard tyre wear, heavy braking. Oulton Park has its challenges in a different aspect in the fact of whereas tyres aren't such a big thing here, you're looking more of a split between the front wheel drive and the rear wheel drive cars. It's an old school circuit. It's very, very tight. It's twisty. It's challenging, but you can still overtake here, and often it's had some very exciting races in the past as well.
Yep, so 12 turns, 2.692 miles, 4.307 kilometres. It's going to be quite an interesting one here. And in many respects, you know, it's host of the likes of the British Touring Cars, the British F3, British Superbikes. But let's have a look at the standings. Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing leads the way on 161 points ahead of Sancho Simsport's Lewis McGlade. Kieran Shanks in the Framing Autosport Subaru now is level on points with Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport. SRR Motorsport Sam Fowler rounds out the top 5 ahead of Matt Richards, Mike Bell, Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing, Max Tad and Jack Nichols rounding out the top 10 in the number 29 Kings Racing Mercedes A45. And also heading a little bit further down that particular order, you've got Matthew Clipp, Ben Willis, Phil Morby, Scott Sovic, Ben Hamlet, Ben Brown and Alexander van der Vude rounding out the top 17 positions. Lorenzo Turi, who's made a one-off appearance at Silverstone National, is 18th ahead of Costas Avram and Toby Davis. But qualifying saw that Matt Richards was the quickest of anybody at 1 minute 24.723 ahead of Sam Fowler and the SRR Motorsport BMW. Kieran Shanks and Dan Kell rounded out the top 4, and as you can see, very, very close between the top 17, let alone the top 18 drivers. It is 1.6 seconds, and that just shows, Phil, how really, really quickly things can change in qualification.
It is. You've got to be able to time your lap right. You've got to be able to go out when you know you've got the most grip, when you've got the car at the fastest. Timing is everything in qualifying. Sometimes it can be being the last car out and the last car across the finish line to go and set your lap, and often you're the fastest. Sometimes the lap can be set earlier on in qualifying and everyone else is trying to catch you up. But yeah, with the field that close already in qualifying, I'm already looking forward to the first race. It's going to be some real good fun tonight.
I think we got plenty of fun at Thruxton last time out. The ante is going to be upped. I mean, especially when you go through from Cascades down to Island Bend. I mean, that's going to be very, very tricky, especially if you get 3 wide going into the braking zone. And as we have seen before, Phil, 3 into 1 necessarily doesn't really go, does it?
It doesn't work, unfortunately. It looks great, it looks really exciting, but it doesn't work. And again, Oulton Park with its narrow track, as I was saying, with an old school type of circuit, it's very narrow. Passing can take place here, especially on the island version of the circuit that they're using with a hairpin. But yeah, here's the starting grid, Alex.
Okay, as a result of some penalties actually handed out, Matt Richards will start on the inside of row 2 as Sam Fowler takes pole. Provisional pole ahead of Kieran Shanks, and you've got Chris Butcher and Toby Davis. Now, Davis was strong over the last couple of rounds. He's now put at P6. Scott Sovic returns to Smile Power Racing after a couple of rounds' absence in the 55. He'll have Costas Avram alongside Lewis McGlade and Aidan Millward. Now, Millward's had a good run. Obviously, he's had a bit of trials and tribulations this season. He's ahead of Daniel Slattery and Ben Willis from Rage and Drake Racing, respectively. Sean King and Alexander van der Vude round out the top 7 rows, but Max Spooner has a good qualifying result for the first of the 3 E-Team Brit cars in 15th ahead of Cam Sports' Chris Wilson. Bradley Brockies makes it another E-Team Brit car in the 9th row alongside Phil Morby. Max Tad and Scott Mitchell will round out the top 10 rows, the top 20. Jack Nichols will start behind his teammates. There you can see him on screen in the number 29, ahead of Ben Brown from Camsport in the 77. And it's Canaan Casual Apex's Daniel Hyde, Sandro Ballesteros, Mike Bell starting all the way from 25th, and Tom Edmonds, who finished as a winner of one of our races last time out, I think has been demoted to the back of the grid. So in many respects, that is quite a change, but we have seen that the Subaru Levorg is medium tyres, not the hard tyres that were specified originally in the official documentation for the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Zansho Simsport lead by just 4 points in the team standings coming into this 3-race encounter. 16 laps in total per race here at Oulton Park. So really going to be very, very interesting here, Phil. And I think with the way that Kieran Shanks has been throwing the Subaru cat amongst the pigeons, we could see another one happen tonight, maybe not just from him, but also maybe from Tom Edmonds.
Yeah, he's definitely my man to watch. Kieran Shanks seems to pull off a surprise. He's well placed in the championship within the top 5. The Subaru carries the weight well, and on a circuit that favours rear-wheel drive, I would say he's one to keep an eye on tonight.
Okay, so there on your screens you've got Fowler, Shanks, Richard, Kell, Butcher, and behind Butcher you've got Scott Sovic just out of shot there. But we are ready to go racing here at Oulton Park for the first of 3 races. Well, we get to the halfway point of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. BMW versus Subaru on the front row. 2 Fords behind, and then you've got 2 Vauxhalls, and then a Vauxhall and an MG. That's a bit of a diverse top 4 rows, if ever you would ask me on that. I think we're just waiting for everyone to be in station, ready to go here. As it looks like we've got one person missing. That is Bradley Brockies in that kind of respect. So when we are all set to go, looks like Bell and Edmonds might be showing in the pits. So we could be down to 23. Yellow in sector 1. We are off and away here at Oulton Park as it is a run down to Old Hall for the first time, and up the inside stays the pole sitter for the moment. Oh, as Shanks runs very, very wide, and there's been a couple of bollards thrown adrift, and Richards really has capitalised on, I think, the misjudgment there initially of Kieran Shanks, as right down at the back end of the order, as you can see down at the bottom of your screen, Phil Morby has got another yellow in sector 1. We've had 2 respectively. So already, as they go through Island Bend, through Britons, down towards Hilltop and then Hislops and Knickerbrook, Phil, this is exactly what was going to happen, and Phil Morby looks to be in the trenches. Jack Nichols runs wide, and good showing by Sam Fowler to get the march on Shanks very early on.
He has indeed. He's done really well to get the BMW off the line. Again, another rear-wheel drive car. Shanks is keeping with them, but already Richards has his intent very clear. He's looking to see if he can get past the Subaru as they come into Druids. In fact, he's trying every way possible, left and right, and causing Shanks to go a little bit wide as they're on the first lap, getting tyres up to temperature and trying to find where the grip is. But Richards is going for it already. He's not hanging around, and it's clear his intent is to try and get to the front. He's going to try the outside at Lodge. It's going to be difficult, but he's not managed to pull it off. So Shanks stays in second as just behind. You're seeing Toby Davis capitalising. Right,
let's have a look at the replay here. So there's one of the SRR cars just behind, and then there's Alexander van der Voorde. You've got Max Spooner to the outside. Daniel Slattery clobbers the tyre stack.
Ouch.
Oh, and then Max Tad has got nowhere to go. It's a 68 Cam Sport entry of Chris Wilson that also gets compromised. So that really has just sort of changed things. Jack Nichols already up into P15. He's just got past Max Spooner. Those two are exchanging places. I know for a fact, I spoke with Max Spooner the other day, and he said, well, I've had a little bit of an injury, muscular injury, to do with obviously a recent activity because E-Team Brit, some of their drivers were actually at Stretton Circuit in Leicester for a Racing with Autism Day, helping to promote autism within motorsport. And Sandro Ballesteros, Bradley Brockies, and also Max Spooner are all on the autistic spectrum. So to see them compete with some people that really know their way around, as that is Richards trying to force the issue with Shanks. Shanks not giving up as they go. They are absolutely side by side. They are really giving no quarters. They've gone under the Warwick Bridge. They're heading into Lodge Corner. Again, Richards to the outside. This is allowing, I think that's Chris Butcher. And Butcher's got up the inside of Richards. Richards, I don't know if there's damage to that focus or whether he's just run wide all of a sudden. Here comes Toby Davis and Dan Kell. Lewis McGlade all the way down in 7th position ahead of Ben Willis, Scott Sovic, Sean King running out the top 10. Then it's Aidan Millward, Alexander van der Voorde in 12th, Max Tad, Phil Morby, Scott Mitchell now showing up in 15th position as Jack Nicholls drops down to 22nd place. But already, as here is a replay now, this is Jack Nicholls we're going to go with. Oh! Now, that is not what you want. A Mercedes going sideways and the front bumper hits the barrier there, Phil.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you want. Drury's is a very fast corner, and it can be very easy just to get it slightly offline, and unfortunately Jack's just caught a wheel and slid off. It's good that he's managed to get himself back on, though. That's going to hurt for a little bit during this first race. However, we can see Chris Butcher is definitely making up some space. We've got another replay. Oh, has Jack managed to get on in one go?
No! Oh,
unfortunately not, no.
That was Chris Wilson in the trenches, completely unsighted. Nicholls tried to rejoin, and then all of a sudden Chris Wilson has had absolutely nowhere to go, and bam, straight into the side. That's thank goodness this is sim racing, not a real life grid, because that would have been one heck of a whack. But now you can see how much Toby Davis. Now Davis is looking for a bit of resurgence here after what happened over the last couple of rounds at both Silverstone National and then also here at Thruxton last time out, as Kieran Shanks sets the fastest lap of the race. He's just put in a 1:25.0. It's gone purple in sectors 1 and 3, and he was over 4.4 tenths of a second quicker than Sam Fowler on that last lap. But here is Richards still trying to keep another yellow sector in sector number 3. Bit of a lock up there for Davis. That's Dan Kell just behind, and Lewis McGlade. And again, Phil, we saw this at Thruxton, the numbers game starting to play in Zansho Simsport's favour, because I look at where Chris Butcher is. The nearest Smile Power Racing car is down in 9th, and that's Scott Sovic.
Yeah, Samsung Simsport, put my tongue in gear, apologies.
Get your worms out right, come on.
That's it. I'll put the full teeth back in, we'll try again. The focus is playing the numbers game, they're doing it really well, but I'm also really impressed with Toby Davis. He showed really well in the last race at Silverstone and also in the last race at Thruxton, so it's good that he's able to try and get some form up front in the first race of the evening, especially here at Oulton Park. Again, seeing Richards falling back a bit is also seems to be Constantino up. Actually, is but no, there's contact there going into Lodge again. It's a lovely corner. It's a good corner to overtake on, but the Davis is being caught by Kell and also is catching up Richards. It's almost as if Richards has concertinaed up those 3 places together, and Chris Butcher doesn't seem to be getting away too far as well as they go through Old Hall and start to see if they can try and close up. At the moment, the rear-wheel drive cars are just leading it completely. Fowler out front. Shanks is just over a second behind him. I expect him to close that down, but the front-wheel drive cars squabbling together are just allowing them to get away.
I think in many respects, Phil, you look at it from a team's perspective, because Smile Power Racing's trio, they've got Butcher in 3rd, Sovic in 9th place, and then you've got Mike Bell all the way down in 16th. Now, Mike Bell, granted, he actually started from the back part of the field, as at the moment, so looks like there was a disqualification for Bradley Brockies before we even got started, so that's one of the E-Team Brit drivers out of the race. Again, yellows are popping up left, right and centre, especially in Sector 3 at the moment. Here is Matt Richards trying to close on Butcher for that P3, as we're now on to, effectively, you can see how battle scarred that right rear quarter is of that Ford Focus as he went into shot just there, as we go on board with the left door cam of Chris Butcher. And this is one of the great things about having all these different angles to play with. You can really see how hard these drivers are pushing. Big lock up there from Butcher, as that puts a bit of an 11s there on the Vauxhall Astra. But yeah, just great racing all the way through at the moment. And Davis is getting swamped by Kell, who's got past, and now McGlade, I think, is trying to get one past the Astra as well, as that time going into Old Hall. It was Richards that had the lock up there.
It is, and it looks as though, Keller and Davis side by side as we come into Cascades. I don't want to close my eyes if I can get away with it. This could end badly, as Richards closes on Butcher, and Kell's managed to stay ahead of Davis, so they've got through cleanly. Matt Richards definitely, I think, needs to be in the back in the garage after the end of this race and getting some panels replaced virtually, of course. At the same time, and Davis once again as he's getting ganged upon by the focuses as Lewis McGlade closes up on him now. So he's staying in the fight. He's keeping himself with inside the top 6 places, which is good to see, considering it seems to be the third race of the day. He seems to have the better performance. So this is a really good, really impressive increase on his side.
I think in many respects also, when you look at the driver's standings coming into round 5, Chris Butcher had a massive lead over Lewis McGlade as we go on board the roof cam of Dan Kell, currently 4th in the standings on 136 points, and he's level with Kieran Shanks, who could really, I think, if the way things stand, McGlade in 7th, Shanks in 2nd. That is going to change 2nd position in the standings, but Chris Butcher, I think, will have a little bit of a distance between himself and Shanks in that sort of regard. I mean, Dan Kell could really fire himself into the top 3 as he's now running P5, so he's 2 positions ahead of his Sancho Simsport teammate. Yellows again in Sector 3. It just seems to be that when they go through Hislop, Knickerbrook, Clayhill, Druids, and under the Warwick Bridge, there's a bit sideways there. Good correction there by Toby Davis, trying to chase down Dan Kell for P5, and at the moment the top 20 is as thus: Fowler, Shanks, Butcher, Richards, Kell, Davis, McGlade, Willis, Sovic, Tad, Van der Vude, Mitchell up to P12 now for Kings Racing. Bell, Morby, Brown, King, Edmonds, Spooner, Millward, and Dan Hyde. That rounds out the top 20, and the 21st is Jack Nicholls.
Yeah, again, Island Hairpin closing everybody up, but it does seem to be, like you say, the last sector of the lap when they're running from Druids through to Lodge and then up through the Elite to complete the lap seems to be where we're getting people going wide, either at Druids or at Lodge itself. In fact, we've got a replay here.
That's Slattery again.
Yeah.
MG. Is off at. That's
off at Druids again. And
that
catching the tyre barrier.
That was an even bigger impact than what Jack Nicholls had, and as a result of that, you see Jack Nicholls actually going through the shot. Here's Matt Richards trying to hustle. Again, this numbers game. It's Richards and Kell that are trying to force the issue with Butcher, and that's given Richards P3. That's going to give Kell P4 as they go through into Old Hall. Wow, that was absolutely brilliant. But then look at behind. Chris Butcher is leading. That was actually Druids. My apologies. Through Lodge Corner. But in many respects, that just shows the power of 3 cars working together as one. They want to get their drivers up as far the order as possible, but then it's about trying to mitigate circumstances, because Smile Power Racing are losing out big time in the team standings. With the way things are as we've gone past halfway in this 15-lap race here at Oulton Park.
It was some impressive overtaking. I almost want to say it was some old-fashioned NASCAR bump drafting as they held Butcher out on the outside, and he's lost a few places. He's now down to 7th position as Lewis McGlade. He seems to be the only one that doesn't seem to be making his way forward. Lewis McGlade seems to have been stuck behind Toby Davis so far, despite Toby losing a few places and also Chris losing places on that last lap as well. But yeah, definitely the numbers game. Impressive stuff from the 3 Ford Focuses. I'm put my teeth into
contact between McGlade and Davis there, and Davis, I don't think that was his doing. I think he was trying to get around. I think he was just trying to get past McGlade, and McGlade, I think, just turned him around, and that has dropped Toby Davis possibly out of the top 15. Well, that might be the case, because you've got King and Edmonds closing up on him like absolutely nobody's business. So what was really a strong performance again for Toby Davis, and I'm not too sure what happened. Let's have a look at this replay. So Davis has got the inside line, and he's trying to go through. Now, it's a tough one to call there, Phil.
It is. It is a very tough one. Knickerbrook is very, very tight and twisty, as we know. 2 cars side by side never ends well, and unfortunately it's ended badly for Davis on this occasion.
Well, Scott Mitchell now really making some headway here at Oulton Park. He's got up into P11 as Phil Morby from Morby Motorsport in the number 14 Subaru Levorg GT gets deposed by the Mercedes. Number 22. There's Ben Willis. Now he has capitalised as a result of all the carnage in front. So he is now ahead of McGlade, and that is Scott Sovic. So now there is another Smile Power Racing car in the mix. Here's a replay.
Here's a better angle.
Yeah, this is
a much better angle.
So Davis is trying to close off the line. Yeah, that's.
And there's tap from McGlade, really.
Well, you
It's
can
2
see
into 1 and
McGlade's
McGlade isn't fully passed.
Yeah, McGlade's trying to turn in, and Davis has got half a car length. He's got half his car in front. So effectively,
it wasn't
he had
going
the
to
racing
well.
line. But that's one for the race stewards to actually decide on that one. But Ben Willis, he's been showing some good pace this season. I mean, he actually took a win at round the race 3 at the opener at Donington, but it hasn't come at a better time as to now. Again, another yellow in Sector 3. But Ben Willis now up into P6, and he's done a really, really good job so far. He's closing up hand over fist over Chris Butcher. Now, I'm sort of like looking at this from a guesstimate perspective here, Phil, that when you look at it, that Chris Butcher was leading by quite a considerable margin. Lewis McGlade is down in 7th. Kieran Shanks is 2nd. I think, and then you got Kell in 4th. Fowler is leading, so Fowler could really sort of spring up the order a little bit here and possibly go into the top 3. But that's dependent on what happens. And let's look at it this way, that Sam Fowler was only 7 points behind both Shanks and Kell coming into this first race.
That's right. I mean, for Butcher, it's almost like a rearguard action. He's having to play both on track and also in the points game as well. Damage limitation is the aim of the game, I think, at the moment, as we're seeing the rear-wheel drive cars just dominating up front. Shanks is caught to Fowler. Hot battle on for the lead as the two of them on. Well, it's very clear how close they are apart, despite what the timings say. And with Ben Willis making his way up the order, despite some contact from some others as well. The rear-wheel drives are really putting it to the front-wheel drive cars on this one. But yeah, for Butcher, he's playing a damage limitation game. It's the only really thing he can do. He's not at the front. He's not able to capitalise on leading the race. That's down to Fowler and Shanks to decide as to who's going to get there by the finish line and the checkered flag. But any points that Butcher scores is anything just to try and reduce the gap, or at least hold back the others whilst they close down on him in at least this first race to begin with.
Very, very true. So we are on now what is lap number 11 out of 15 here at Oulton Park. Again, that yellow sector 3 is showcasing that how much people are trying, as Fowler has to relinquish the lead. I think possibly not that he wanted to, but he had no other alternative. And Sam Fowler, I think, is looking at the bigger picture as well as Kieran Shanks. So at the moment, it is a rear-wheel drive 1-2 with Subaru leading BMW. Matt Richards is around a further 6.1 seconds off of this battle. Make that a little bit closer, because whilst they've been battling away, I'm just keeping an eye on the lap times here, Phil. Last lap from Shanks was 1 minute 25.8, a 1 minute 26.2 from Fowler, and then Richards puts in a 1:25.5. So he was clearly over 3/10 quicker than Shanks, and then that's about 7/10 quicker than Fowler. So Richards could, if he gets the opportunity, and there is, as they say, speak of the devil, and they doth appear, 5.4 seconds. Ben Willis having a bit of a drag racing set of antics here, as he's in the middle of a Vauxhall and Ford encounter, and you've got 2 Vauxhalls in that battle, because you've got Butcher up ahead. You've got McGlade just behind the 85 drag racing Subaru, getting very, very close through Cascades there as they go through Lakeside up towards Island Bend. But again, we've got 2 Subarus in the top 6. Another yellow in Sector 3. A bit of a love tap from behind thanks to Lewis McGlade on Ben Willis. But again, it hasn't been to the point where the taps from behind have really unsettled people. Apart from obviously when it gets to being side-by-side contact, Phil.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously one of the Achilles heels of running a rear-wheel drive car is if you get a tap on the rear quarter either side of the car, then normally you are going round and you're being spun out. I'll be honest, it's a much cleaner race this time, apart from I think the Toby Davis and McGlade's contact we had earlier. It's been a much cleaner race this time for the first encounter at least. And of course for Fowler and Shanks, they've managed to build this gap. They're right out the front ahead of Richards because of all the squabbling that's going on as well. Everyone is pushing for positions, trying to get up further up the order order as they can. And in the meantime, both Fowler and Shanks have managed to stay ahead of that. They're having their own private battle up front. Be impressed if Richards managed to close them both down, although he's setting fastest lap, as you say. It is just the way the game works, unfortunately. If you squabble with the ones around you, you're holding yourself up as well as them. It looks good on track. It's exciting for the spectators, and I'm loving every minute of this, by the way. McGlade comes around.
Sorry, I've got to cut across you here. The Max Tad headlight show is back in action.
Oh, here we go. Max is on the road.
You know when the Max Tad train is in town, because as soon as he's battling for a top 10 position, he has put those headlights on, and there they are. That is his. I mean, you can see the glint of it. Oh, now a little bit of a moment there, I think, for McGlade and Willis, and that was nearly allowing Sovic to go through. But Tad's got past. Now he's got McGlade in his sights. He's going to go towards the inside here. Now, if he gets this move, that's 2 places and 2 corners. They door rub there. Tad loses out, still keeps the headlights ablaze. Sovic to the outside of the corner. Well, that is what you call door battling, door-to-door battling at its very, very best. And Max Tad still having the headlights ablaze on the SRR Motorsport BMW.
Brilliant stuff, and it was really clean as well. That was good to see. They're keeping it side by side, door handle to door handle, and not taking each other off. It's the way to do it. So replay here of Jack Nicholls.
That is Sandro Ballesteros just up ahead in the number 19. So let's see what happens here. Now, Sandro is one of the youngest on the field. They go through the left at Cascades. Ballesteros runs. Oh no! Back end steps out for Nicholls. So I think he had a bit of that was a bit of a tank slapper. So that was unwanted front wheel drive oversteer, quite literally. Yep. But he managed to recover, and that puts Nicholls down in 23rd position. But meanwhile, Max Tad with headlights ablaze unceremoniously on that BMW 125 IM Sports, trying to chase down Lewis McGlade as they go through Island Bend, and they'll head through Britons, and that's a great run. A great run from Tad in the number 35, and he's going to get him done by his lops, and he's done it already. That's brilliant work, and you can just see that I think that Tad just had to run. And as you said, the rear-wheel drive cars really coming alive here in race 1 as we are fast approaching. That's quite quick how this race has gone so far, Phil. It's literally it's like a flash in the pan. It's done, dusted.
We're there already? Wow. I'm still catching my breath. Yeah, brilliant stuff from Tad. He's putting. McGlade went wide coming out of Island Hairpin, which gave him the opportunity. He was able to get the power down really early and use the rear-wheel drive advantage of the BMW, and it's got him ahead. Although McGlade is right with him, as is Sovic as well. So I don't think this is done just yet. However, Tad's with the headlights on. It's great to see him, at all action. And really making progress. I think he's going to try, if he can. It's a big gap, as he's gone wide actually coming out of Old Hall, so that's not going to help his case too much. If he can get close to Ben Willis, I'll be impressed. However, behind him now, that's left Lewis McGlade and Scott Sovic fighting each other for 8th place, and a very close battle there. In fact, I see a move, or suspect a move, coming into the Island Hairpin. Sovic on the outside, McGlade defending. This didn't work out well for him too well last time, but McGlade's defended the inside, which is the best way to do it, keeping Sovic on the outside as well. Also going to give him the inside run on the way down to Hislops, and we'll see. Actually, this is going to be quite close how this is going to work. Yeah, Sovic has taken the sensible line and just slid back into position behind, which is the best way to do it. Side by side, as we've seen already, it doesn't work, although McGlade goes a little bit wide out of Knickerbrook on the run up to Clay Hill. In the meantime, at the front, Sam Fowler's got back in front of Kieran Shanks despite his race-long pressure. I think we're on for the race win.
Yep, so it looks like we're going to now be on the final lap here at Oulton Park for race 1 of 3. No, it's the checkered flag. Fowler's taking the win. Shanks takes second. Matt Richards will come across the line in P3, so that will keep his championship hopes well and truly helped in many respects. Looks like Dan Kell will make sure that it's a Sancho Simsport 3-4. Chris Butcher takes P5 ahead of Ben Willis, Max Tad, Lewis McGlade, Scott Sovic, and Mike Bell rounds out the top 10. There is McGlade. Scott Mitchell in the number 22 Kings Racing Mercedes will round out the top 11 ahead of Phil Morby in the Morby Motorsport number 14 Subaru. Ben Brown will be the highest of the Cam Sport drivers in this particular encounter in the 77. Toby Davis will round out the top 14 ahead of Aidan Millward, who started in the top 10, finished P15 ahead of the leading E-Team Brit entry of the number 63 of Max Spooner. There is Chris Wilson, who's just behind Sandro Ballesteros. Actually, Jack Nichols is a DNF for this particular race. Tom Edmonds would be behind Alexander van der Voorde in 18th and 17th respectively, ahead of Sean King, Daniel Hyde, Sandro Ballesteros, Chris Wilson, Jack Nichols. Kostas Avram would be classified in 24th ahead of Daniel Slattery, who DNF'd after 5 laps and a disqualification for Bradley Brockies. But a first race here, and Sam Fowler really has sort of said, well, I know the fact that Chris Butcher, Lewis McGlade and Kieran Shanks want all the glory for themselves, but I want a piece of that pie and I'm going to take it right now.
And he's done a really impressive job even to stake that claim. Lights to flag. It's not often you can pull that one off at Oulton Park. As you can see, Sam Fowler took the win ahead of Kieran Shanks, with Matt Richards completing the podium. It's a really good job by Fowler to have stayed ahead for that whole entire race and soak up the pressure that Kieran Shanks was piling upon him.
Very true. So in just a couple of moments' time, we will be getting underway with our second of 3 races. And we will see what happens in race 2 coming up very, very shortly. Don't forget to follow the Virtual Motorsport Online on their social media channels. Big thank you to simplyrace.co.uk and Mike Yao for providing the fantastic pixelated fervour that we're seeing out on the virtual setting of Oulton Park in Cheshire. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, as you might have seen some information there about Team Brit, well, there is the Team Brit GT3 Challenge and the Cinetic BMW Series taking place this coming Friday evening from 7 p.m. British Summer Time, where they will have their double points round at Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans. And Phil, that's another place that I think a few people have on their bucket list.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Le Mans is one to pay a visit to. I think just to either experience the race week itself, which for me makes it unique in that way that you've got a 24-hour race that demands an entire week almost of activity to build up with it. And I'll be honest, in the Kinch household, it's a tradition to sit and watch qualifying live on Wednesday and Thursday, and then watch all the build-up and various support series for Le Mans. In fact, one member of the family will watch the entire race live and then sleep for 3 days afterwards. I won't name who. But yes, definitely, if you can get to Le Mans. I haven't been myself. One day I'd like to. I've known people that have, and the experiences they speak of is just completely mind-blowing at times. It's one definitely to do.
Yeah, so it will be a double points round for those E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge and Cinetic BMW Series drivers, as we're waiting for warm-up to be completed, which is about 4 minutes' time. We'll get underway with race 2 out of 3 here. So in many respects, just looking back at that first race there, Phil, there was a lot of great racing, but there were some incidents that really could have been avoided, I think is probably the term I will use there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Davis McGlade incident is the one that stands out for me, really. It looked as though it was a very opportunist move. Davis was already on the inside of the Knickerbrook chicane, and McGlade wasn't alongside, really. He was half a car length with him, so it wasn't really on. But if you're not going for a gap, as a famous racing driver once said, you're not racing, you're not pushing for the win. So I can see both sides of it, but it wasn't really on, and unfortunately it curtailed what was turning out to be a really good race for Davis. As we said before, race 3 seems to have been his strong point in the last 2 events, whereas race 1 was looking really good, and he was inside the top 6 despite some previous contact. So hopefully he can surprise us and wow us and try and make some progress back up the order for race 2 in order to see how that will work out for race 3. And that is also part of the game you play in touring cars, when you've got reverse grids, success ballasts and involved as well. You know, you're trying to get yourself up as far as you can for that final reverse grid race, which seems to be the most exciting race of the day. Although, to be honest, so far the ante has been upped, and I think race 2 definitely needs to see if it can beat race 1.
Very true indeed there, Phil. And I just think with the fantastic circuit that we have here at Oulton Park, that is going to be no exception whatsoever as we gear ourselves up for race 2 out of 3 here at Oulton Park. So yeah, I just think we're probably going to see quite a lot of what we had last time out.
Definitely, it's going to be some good fun. For me, already the rear wheel drive front wheel drive split is more obvious than it has been in my last 2 encounters at Silverstone and at Thruxton. And it's not surprising. It's something historically Oulton Park is very good at showing, especially with Fowler and Shanks being just running away at the front of the race as they did, and leaving behind the likes of Butcher and Richards to begin with, just squabbling for the last podium place and holding themselves up. So the aim of the game, I think, is if you can try and beat those rear-wheel drive cars off the line, which will be an impressive feat, if you can stay with them, then you've got a fighting chance at being in the top 3 and having a good result at the end. Historically, Oulton Park itself, with regards to the VTCC, has been more of a rear-wheel drive circuit in the last 5 years than it has for front-wheel drive. You've had 10 wins for rear-wheel drive cars going back the last 5 years of the series, whereas you've had 5 wins for front-wheel drives. So rear-wheel drive cars seem to be the better to be, and as Fowler showed, he was able to get the car off the line from pole, keep it in front despite soaking up all the pressure Shanks offered, and stay in front. So he's going to have to struggle with the maximum ballast for race 2, and obviously Shanks could be in a better position, and we know he's very good with the Subaru at carrying the weight and making the tyres last in a race distance as well.
Yeah, completely agree there with you, Phil. It is a case that the Subaru has been the sort of the dark horse this season so far. Obviously, when Kieran Shanks came in and won 3 out of 4 races off the bounce, then picked up another 2 at Thruxton. So yeah, it's all good. I think it's just a case of how much are we going to hear from other drivers saying, "Well, that Subaru is pretty quick, isn't it?"
You start to hear that soon. I'm waiting for well, that car's really quicker than us. What's going on there? The old adage is that if you have balance of performance and if people aren't complaining about it, you aren't doing it correctly. And that's what I find covering other touring car series. And there are always people complaining of balance of performance somewhere. So again, Oulton Park favours the cars in this respect, and as the BMW and Subaru proved in race 1, it's what we would expect to see. But the front wheel drives are just as capable of being fast and being up the front, and especially, as we were saying, having the numbers game by my teeth again when I say this, Sancho Simsport.
You'll get there in the end, Mr.
Yeah,
Finch,
yeah. By the end of race 3, I should have it licked. But yeah, again, all 3 cars up the front, they are doing a really good job, and they were doing that both at Thruxton and at Silverstone as well. So Smile Power Racing were closer to the Fords in both Silverstone and Thruxton, but here at Oulton, Chris Butcher made his way forward. Scott Sovic was making really good progress to be inside the top 10 for his first race back, and Mike Bell suffering towards the lower end of the grid and proving, as I said before, Oulton Park being a narrow circuit, and it can be difficult to pass. It's not impossible. If you find it's that difficult, you're not making the progress forward.
Very, very true indeed. Well, looks like they're lining up on the grid ahead of the formation lap before we go green for 15 laps. So looks like your running order will be exactly the same front row as we had for race 1. Sam Fowler from SR Motorsport in the 27 will have Kieran Shanks alongside in the Frammy Autosport 16 Subaru. Then it is the Sancho Simsport duo of the number 4 of Matt Richards, who is currently leading the way in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge this coming Friday. Dan Callan, the 89 Sancho Simsport, rounds out the top four positions. Ahead of Chris Butcher, who is second in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge as well. He's running P5 ahead of Ben Willis from Drake Racing. Then it's Max Tad. Headlights are plenty from the SRR Motorsport 35 with Lewis McGlade alongside Scott Sovic and Mike Bell round out the top 10 for Smile Power Racing. Although Vauxhall Astra's alongside. Then it's Scott Mitchell, Phil Morby, Ben Brown, Toby Davis, who will look to get up the field a bit further, pretty much to where he was last time before the incident between him and Lewis McGlade. It's Aidan Millward, Max Spooner will start from 16th, Alexander van der Voorde, Tom Edmonds, Sean King, Daniel Hyde, Sandro Ballesteros, Chris Wilson, Jack Nichols will start in 23rd ahead of Costas Avram, Daniel Slattery and Bradley Brockies here at Oulton Park. So, thoughts, Phil, ahead of this race? What can we expect, my good man?
Edge of the seat. action-packed, door-to-door. Oh no, we've had that already.
You've got no.
It's already been.
Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, he has not got ahead of himself.
No, I'm planning already.
He can't get his false teeth in, but the action, I think there's still more to come.
Oh, there is definitely, and I'll try and get the false teeth in before the end of race 2 this time. Yeah, it's going to be fun, and definitely, again, like I say, you've got rear-wheel drive cars at the front. Maximum weight ballast this time for the front row, and they're going to have to cope with that, which is going to affect their tyre wear. So for me, I'm going to look towards Ben Willis and Chris Butcher in the third row of the grid to see what surprises they can bring. They'll be my recommendations, but we'll see how we go as the race is about to get underway.
Yes, we're all waiting for them to line up, and then we will be off and away for race 2. Out of 3 here at Oulton Park. Fantastic Cheshire-based circuit, as we should have everyone ship, shape and Bristol fashion ready to get racing for 15 laps. So just hold on to your hats, wait for it, because there will be chaos at some points. We have seen that throughout the first 4 races of farewell rounds of the season. We are off and running as Phil Morby gets a really good hole shot there. Looks to be 4 abreast down towards the bottom part of the top 15, and again one of the bollards has gone flying through Old Hall, and it's side by side for the lead. Shanks gets the run through. Has he made it through for Cascades? No, Bowler up the inside, the pair clash. Oh, Shanks goes wide, and that is Richards trying to thread the eye of the needle. Dan Kell there too, and here comes Chris Butcher. Oh, the rear-wheel drives kept on tripping all over each other, and here is the headlight. Well, the headlights aren't on Max Ted, so the headlight show hasn't yet started. I'm sure that it will do very, very shortly, but it's side by side between first and second, third and fourth. So Richards versus Fowler. Richards ahead by just a fraction. Butcher gets past Kell for P3, heading into Knickerbrook, and Fowler gets the run on Richards down to Knickerbrook for Hislops and Knickerbrook to retake the lead back once again. That's great action in just our first lap as they come up. This is just brilliant.
Breathe, Alex, breathe.
I think I just have breathed about 5 times in that last 3 seconds there, Phil. But wow, that was a great way to start off as they go down Deer Leap, down into Old Hall. Well, they're going to go through into under the Warwick Bridge, down into Lodge Corner, and Fowler has got the lead back from Richards. Kell is in close proximity. He's slipstreaming his teammate, and now Richards will get the run down to Old Hall, and I think Kell is going to send it up the inside. That was nearly 3 abreast if he had the gap there, but Fowler keeping it planted around the outside. Butcher going around the outside of Shanks. This is absolutely brilliant. And Max Tad has got the ringside seat. Oh, late break there from Shanks up the inside of Butcher to retake P4. Yellow in Sector 3. That seems to be, that's possibly the touring car equivalent of the yellow brick road in Sector 3 here at Oulton Park. Oh, a little bit of a tap from behind on Fowler, courtesy of Butcher. Shanks to the outside. McGlade gives Butcher a tap from behind. And then it's a bit of door rubbing between Butcher and Shanks heading down into Hislops. This is categorically brilliant touring car racing at its very best.
It is, definitely. Just to go back to the first corner of the race while we're watching these guys squabble over the first few positions on the way out to Clay Hill. Unfortunately, I saw some contact in Old Hall as the field was streaming through between Toby Davis and Scott Nichols at least. Scott Mitchell, sorry, at least. And Davis is down to... False teeth. Davis is down to 19th and already with a comeback drive on his plate. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make that progress as we were hoping. Shanks looking at the inside of Fowler as they go into Lodge and in through to Deer Leap, and it's great to see all of these guys so close together just after the first couple of laps as well. They're not allowing the cars to try and get away with each other, the rear-wheel drive cars, as they did in race 1. Richards is building a gap to Dan Kell. He's the closest to him. Shanks and Fowler seem to be just squabbling over third place, although it looks as though now Butcher is closing on them. In fact, yeah, here we go. So the turn 1, as I was talking about, you've got Davis on the outside, Scott Mitchell on the inside, one of the E-Team brick cars, I think is Max Spooner.
63, spiralling off, and he's, Bradley Brocky's, the other 105 E-Team brick car, is a lap down already. The top 20, the 25 drivers are covered by about 26 seconds at this particular moment. As you're saying, Scott Mitchell trying to
Yeah, there's
he's had
contact there from Davis on the inside of Mitchell, and it's just sent Mitchell off the tyre barrier, unfortunately, and of course Davis to be held up as well. So
Yeah.
comeback drives hopefully from the pair of them, as Davis is up to 18th place and Mitchell in 20th place. Meanwhile, up the front, Richards, he's building that gap. He's up to just over a second. He's being kept honest by Dan Kell. But meanwhile, the fight for fourth place between Fowler and Butcher, as Shanks is now chasing Kell himself as well. So this isn't over by any chance. They've got a few laps left, obviously, but at the moment the front-wheel drive cars are getting more mixed in with it, and we've already seen the NASCAR bump drafting from the Fords.
Max Tad has dropped unceremoniously out of the top 10. He's now P12, 8.4 seconds off of Richards, who continues to lead. Jack Nicholls up to P16. Tom Edmonds in the second of the Framley Autosport cars in the number 15 Subaru, as Butcher tries to send it round the outside through Cascades on Fowler. No dice there, I'm afraid, Mr. number 65. But he's going to get a good run coming through towards Island Bend. He's going towards the outside. There's a major lockup now. I'm wondering whether that was Shanks or Kell. That might have been Kell. Oh, Shanks gets a little bit of a touch there. And 3 into 1, definitely do not go. McGlade goes rally crossing. I think he'd be very brave if he thought it was Ken Block for just a moment there in the Hoonigan Focus RS. But he's in a touring car, and that's only front wheel drive. Oh, more door banging. That is between Fowler and Kell. That's for P2. Now Butcher and Bell are making the numbers count. Now you can see. Now let's have a look at this replay. Now this is that's Mike Bell going up the inside of Max Tad. Now Tad gets the touch from Edmonds. So I think basically Tad has lost it in his own respect, and then Edmonds has been completely unsighted there. But now the numbers game is really starting to kick off. Oh, the two Sancho Simsport cars hit the barrier. They've taken each other out. Was there contact between them? Oh my goodness.
I think there was contact there between them, and also potentially with one of the small power Astras as well. As Ben Willis also goes a little bit away. It's almost as if they don't want to keep it on the grey stuff for some strange reason, which is good to see. So yeah, unfortunately that seems to have scuppered the Sanso Shims. Oh, I can't try. I'm going to go with Ford Focus. Is the team not playing tonight?
Just say the blue Ford Focus.
The blue Ford. Yeah,
I'll concentrate on the team. Sancho Simsport.
That's it.
Our broadcast director Mike Yao is now educating Phil King whilst we're live on air. Brilliant stuff.
My homework for the holiday break is to pronounce it correctly. But yeah, they, unfortunately, the blue Fords have shot themselves in the foot with the contact there, and they've now fallen much down the order. And in the meantime, it's a complete reverse from race one, with the small power Astras moving their way up forwards as well.
Right, let's have a look at the replay. Now, you see that Chris Butcher is there. Oh, he's tagged Kell.
Kell's lost it, yeah.
Kell has lost it, and it's taken McGlade out as well. So I knew there was contact, but I didn't. Oh!
Very close with Shanks as well.
Shanks was the luckiest individual alive. He managed to thread the eye through the needle and just did. I think he did a Cole Trickle from Days of Thunder. Managed to
through the middle, foot down.
Yeah, foot down. Get your way past through the wrecks. But yeah, Ben Willis now still running pretty well in the drag racing 85. He's trying to close on Scott Sovic now, who is the second of the highest pace Smile Power Racing Astras. As now Tom Edmonds has got his headlights ablaze behind Max Tad of all people. So Edmonds is giving Max Tad a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. And there's Willis up the inside of Butcher for P6, but then Butcher takes the position back very, very quickly indeed. Well, that is that Sancho Simsport double whammy caused by a little bit of contact via Chris Butcher really has, as you said, changed it. So at the moment, we're now on to lap number 6 out of 15. It's Richards from Sancho Simsport leading, SRR Motorsports Fowler in second. It's Smile Power Racing's Mike Bell in third. Frammy Autosports Kieran Shanks in fourth, ahead of Scott Sovic, Chris Butcher, Drag Racing's Ben Willis, Morby Motorsports Phil Morby has got Max Tad and Tom Edmonds closing down on him. Aidan Millward still in now what is 11th place ahead of Ben Brown for Cam Sport. There is Ben Brown trying to close down on the option 13 Simsport number 67 BMW. Costas Avram's looking a bit more racy. Toby Davis has got Jack Nicholls closing in on him as Max Tad's trying to force the issue with Phil Morby. Oh, that's very close, going through Lodge Corner into Deerleap and now across the start-finish line towards Old Hall. Now, Max Tad, if he wants to start his usual tricks, he's got to forget about the headlights that are on behind him and stick his own set on right now.
Oh, I don't know. It's almost part of the fun. You see the headlights on Max Tad's BMW, and that's it. You know, you game on and the show is on. Although, to be honest, he is happily pushing Morby, who goes slightly wide through Cascades. The Subaru getting a little back end happy. On the run down to Ireland, is he going to try for an inside move? Morby is defending. Willis is defending. This could go in well, actually. Tad's going around the outside. Can he do the switchback? He can indeed. He's got the inside. He's not managed to get the run out the hairpin, unfortunately. Meanwhile, up front, it looks as though Kieran Shanks is holding off Mike Bell. No, he's passed Mike Bell for third place. So again, the Subaru, despite Max Ballast, one of the heaviest cars in the field from race one, he's putting it to good use. But it's great to see Mike Bell back up the front and back in the action again after a very quiet race one.
Yeah, and also quite a difficult race, a trio of races at Thruxton last time out a couple of weeks ago as Max Tad sending it up the inside. Oh, that's a brave move from the BMW, and Morby gives him room, and that was a great send up the inside of Druids Corner there as they headed towards the Warwick Bridge and down towards Lodge Corner. And Tom Edmonds is also trying to get a bite out of the back end of that Subaru Levorg right now, as you now see on the bottom right hand corner of your screen. That is Toby Davis and Costas Avram. So that's MG versus Vauxhall battling away for what is P13 on the road, and not too far behind them and is closing. It is Jack Nicholls in the 29 Kings Racing Mercedes, and I will be completely honest, after Scott Mitchell's drama in the early stage of this race, he's starting to recover, and he's only about 4 seconds off of his teammate down in P17 at the moment, as Davis and Avram still battling away tooth and nail. Great showing by Ben Brown from Camsport in the 77 Mercedes, up ahead of those that warring duo. Meanwhile, Willis has got Morby on his back bumper. There's Edmonds, Millward closing up, Brown, Davis and Avram, and I think even Nicholls could factor into this. So it looks like it could be the Drake Racing train here, with Ben Willis in 8th position so far.
I'm going to say, we got a triple Subaru sandwich. Although I like the producer's description as well, all the Scooby-Doos. We'll go with that. That sounds better than my triple Subaru sandwich. We'll save that for later.
No,
Willis in front.
You can call that a triple decker, Phil.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Triple decker. Although Scooby-Doo's, if we're in the minute, he's a winner. As Ben Willis manages to hold the Subaru, we should be specific, through Lodge, up Deerleap, and Phil Morby coming back at him as they come into Old Hall Corner. It's great to see you've got four-wheel, rear-wheel drive cars fighting each other for 8th place at the moment, although Millward is losing a little bit of ground to Edmonds at the moment. Hats off to Toby Davis on the previous lap, by the way. A lovely move on the inside of Cascades past Costas Avram in the MG. That was really good to see. He had to try and hold it on the inside quite tightly. Ben locks up into the island hairpin, causes Morby to close up. A slight bit of touch there, but it's all fair and square. Edmonds closes up as well. So we're still on for the Scooby-Doo triple decker. There we go. I'll add my one.
You couldn't resist, Kinch. I knew it.
I'm covering all the bases. Either way, it's great to see.
Yeah. And actually, quite nice to hear a very well timed quip from someone who before he came on board with this hasn't had the opportunity to commentate. So chapeau, monsieur, as they say.
Thank you very much. Thank you, kind sir. In the meantime, with the racing, we've still got cars racing. We're doing well.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that was a lock up from Phil Morby there.
It was.
Oh, so the Subaru meat in the triple decker Subaru sandwich definitely is overcooking the brakes quite considerably there, and also the tyres at the same time. Luckily enough, with sim racing, you don't have to worry about a flat spot in the same way you would in real life racing, but you still have to go with it. Oh, now Lewis McGlade, and this is Alexander van der Voorde. Now this is for 21st position. Lewis McGlade has tried to come back. Dan Kell is a position behind. And now McGlade, you can see how battered those. Now Morby's
Phil Morby
lost
going
it.
off.
Oh, well, as Pete Burns would once say, he was spun right round, baby, right round.
Oh, very good.
As Jack Nicholls now up into P14, but Lewis McGlade did a really good job there, just sizing up Alexander van der Voorde. Now, van der Voorde, we didn't see last time out at Thruxton, had a pretty disastrous race evening at Silverstone. Now, let's have a look at this replay. So you got Willis up ahead, Morby, and now you got Tom Edmonds. Morby's going towards the outside. So, oh no, it's just the back end's just stepped out. So it's
caught himself out on braking into the hairpin, and it's just not wanting to grip him.
Yeah. So in that kind of respect, that was a case of a fait accompli for as there's another lockup, and this time it is Ben Brown from Camsport and Toby Davis. Now look at now Tom Edmonds is going to try and close up and go up the inside through Old Hall. And that's a great move up the inside of Ben Willis. Max Tad now up into P7. And I wonder if we're going to get... now
Toby Davis has gone wide again. That seems to be his trick, unfortunately, in race 2 at the moment at Old Hall. Constance Avram on the inside. Contact. That was coming. You could see that coming, unfortunately. And with Phil Morby as well, and Jack Nichol, I think.
Reflected Phil Morby. Morby had nothing to do with it. And he's just gone, well, I'll see if I can get past Costas. And Costas comes in, and then all of a sudden, Morby goes sideways. Nichols goes, thank you very much. I'll have that. And now we've got the battle for what is going to be ninth position, as Tom Edmonds now has got past Ben Willis. Aidan Millward. Now, if I remember correctly, I think it was at Thruxton. He had an absolute stinker. I think it was. I think he had in one of the races, the engine ripped out the front of that BMW.
That was it.
Right, now let's have a look at this replay. Now Toby Davis has gone rally crossing. Here comes Costas Avram. So Davis has gone wide. Avram's gone at the inside of Cascades. Bang! There's the touch on the left corner, and then Morby goes barreling in. And then Jack Nichols actually has nowhere to go on that. So Jack was just like literally an unwilling participant, but that's put him up to P14. But Davis, more surprisingly here, Phil, has stayed ahead of Costas Avram after that exchange. And
I'm going to say that's impressive.
Yeah. So we've had 3 retirements already. Alexander van der Voorde, Daniel Hyde, and Bradley Brockies. Brockies retired after the very first lap. Max Spooner is the last of the 23 drivers that are still circulating, as we know, on to lap number 12 out of 15. But Millward seems to have a bit better measure of the competitors up front, especially when you've got Willis, who I think really has a bit more pace in that Subaru. But the BMWs, we were expecting the BMWs were going to be strong, but then the Subarus have just come and upset the apple cart like nobody's business and went, well, we're here, we're going to have a bit of fun as well and maybe take a few points off of people. And that's what they've done.
And they've done it very well as well. Like I say, Willis unfortunately looks as though he's sliding down positions as Millward is lining him up into Old Hall. So it's the Davis and Constance Avram even. I'm going to put a different set of teeth in for next time. And unfortunately, Davis has caught the tyre bow coming into his lots and through Knickerbrook. So that's dropped him another couple of places. He's not having the best of races, unfortunately. Hopefully, race 3 will be a better encounter for him. Millward is really working hard on trying to get past Ben Willis. And you can see he's been keeping him very honest for the last couple of laps. Meanwhile, we've got Chris Wilson here coming into Old Hall at the start of 13, and he's holding off Lewis McGlade. In fact, I think, and there's more contact there. So McGlade is on a charge. In fact, both of the blue Fords definitely on a charge after their slight implosion earlier in the race at Deer Leap. Reminds me of another pair of teammates who unfortunately had that, but I'll go into that after the race.
That's fair enough. But in the meantime, Chris Butcher has got past Scott Sovic. Sorry to cut across you there. Oh, that's a big lock up from Lewis McGlade, and Phil Morby's going to make it 3 wide. Oh no, he's gone off. He's nearly gone off again. Phil Morby. It's not been his race, is it? He's running in in the top 6 and gets a punt, and then has to try and avoid an accident and spins round, and and then he comes out of Island Bend, and the back end of the Subaru just doesn't want to grip, and that's Dan Kell trying to get past Chris Wilson there, gets the position, and Morby is trying to do a Travis Pastrana. I'm sorry, that's not going to work, I'm afraid, because the Subaru is a rear-wheel drive. I'm sorry, Phil, but they're not four-wheel drive. You
Unfortunately
really
not.
Got to watch it with that.
It's great to watch, though. It's great to watch. Morby's really entertaining in this race. It's good to see. But those Blue Falls are just working their way forward in proper team style, flying formation, and it's the best way to do it. Working together, making up the places after the incident they've had earlier on. Morby on the outside, of Wilson. Not sure, or no, it will work just, or there's contact either way. This will be interesting as we come into Cascades to see if they're going to go line astern. He's going to hold back, I think, and I think his next opportunity is on the run down to Lakeside to see if he can try and pass him at Island Turn. In the meantime, we've got Max Tad with Chris Sovic. Are the lights on? No, the lights aren't on, and yet Tad's in the top 10, fighting for a top 10 position.
I wonder if someone's actually told him off for that, as that's completely lighting up the rear tyres by Phil Morby there in 21st position. And then up ahead, that's Scott Sovic, who's now behind teammate. And the interesting thing is how it swung a little bit in terms of the team's dynamic, is that Matt Richards is completely solo at the front of the field. Sam Fowler's trying to close. He's about 7 tenths behind, but we are on, I think, pretty much the last lap. And then you look at where the Smile Power racing cars are. You've got... This is Scott Sovic, who's ahead of Max Tad, and up ahead of him are his two teammates, Mike Bell in 4th, Chris Butcher in 5th place, as Matt Richards now really coming under the kibosh from Sam Fowler. And let's not forget that Fowler won race 1, as we look to be on the final lap, as we're getting into Hislops and then Knickerbrook for the final time here for race 2 here at Oulton Park. Through Druids, having negotiating Clay Hill, so after coming out of Knickerbrook, and they'll head down towards Druids, and this is one of the very fast parts of the circuit in terms of approaches, and they're going through at around about 80 to 90 miles an hour under the Warwick Bridge, and then the run down to Lodge Corner. The big thing is here, Phil, that this makes it a very interesting title fight now, because it looks like are we going to have the checkered flag this time? It is. So Matt Richards secures the second race victory here at Oulton Park ahead of Sam Fowler. Kieran Shanks takes a top 3 position, rounding out the rostrum in 16 Frammy Autosport car with Bell, Butcher, Sovic, Tad, but we've got Chris Wilson. There's Chris Butcher and Scott Sovic. So a good run for these Smile Power Racing drivers in many respects, as Max Tad gently brushes against the front noses. There's Toby Davis, and he's got Sandro Ballesteros from E-Team Brit sending it up the inside of him on the final lap. I don't think he saw that one coming, but Toby Davis, I have the absolute most sympathy for at this particular moment in time. But there is Scott Mitchell finishing in P12. But again, Phil, another great race. So let's have a look at the results for race number 2 here at Oulton Park for round 5 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. It was Matt Richards from Sancho Simsport that took the win, ahead of Sam Fowler from SRR Motorsport. Kieran Shanks took P3, rounding out the rostrum. Another solid performance from the Subaru, ahead of Mike Bell, Chris Butcher and Scott Sovic, with there being 3 Smile Power Racing cars in the top 6 ahead of Max Tad. Drake Racing's Ben Willis, Aidan Millward taking 9th ahead of Ben Brown, who rounded out the top 10. Then you've also got, looks like there's been quite a few other bits and pieces, but it was Scott Mitchell, Jack Nichols, Sean King, Lewis McGlade, Dan Kell, Chris Wilson, Sandro Ballesteros getting... it looks like Daniel Slattery actually retired just before the end of the race, but that was an absolute cracker, wasn't it, Phil? Great, clean racing, and there were some incidents and accidents, weren't there?
There were, and I'm gonna. If you ask me what the next race is going to be like, I'm going to predict exactly the same again. Potentially even more of a higher ante this time. But yeah, it's great racing again from the second race, and it was good to see lots of side by side action again. The difference to race one was that the front wheel drive cars, the Vauxhalls, the Astras to begin with, they weren't allowing the Subarus and the BMW drivers to get away, and it was good close racing at the front. You had 5 or 6 cars for the first 3-4 laps at least, fighting for the lead and squabbling through until Matt Retches was able to make a breakaway and start to build a gap. A swing of the pendulum as well with regards to the Vauxhalls taking, 3 cars line astern across the finish line, compared to the other 2 blue Fords that were making their way back up the field after that small implosion on Deer Leap. So lessons to be learned, and obviously those 2 are going to be, with both Kell and McGlade, 2 to watch in race 3, depending on how the reverse grid works out, and also on pure pace alone. They were able to start making their way back up. I'm also going to shout out the 2 Mercedes as well, the Kings Racing Mercedes, because obviously Jack Nicholls had a terrible race 1, has made his way back up the field in race 2, and also Scott Mitchell, despite the opening first corner melee that he was involved with, was able to come back and get a top 12 finish. So the 2 of them are acquitting themselves really well, despite everything that the drivers and Oulton Park itself is throwing at them today.
Very much the case, and yeah, it's just going to be one of those things where it's about how they come back from race 2, and obviously the Zancho Simsport boys of Kell and McGlade, they're going to have something to, I think, very much say in this third race, and it will be interesting to see how that then switches things around before we go into a very lengthy break, because we'll have 4 weeks between this round and obviously round 6 at Snetterton 300. So at least you won't hear from me and Phil for a little while, and at least Phil can practice getting his false teeth in.
I'm already trying now. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Let's try that. See how that works this time.
Yes, indeed. So we'll be back in just a moment or two's time here for round 5 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Oulton Park.
To allow us to be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to be able to go through the chicane at the same speed as the able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now, if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers, that if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke is he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer. I tell him what I want and how I want it. He says it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in Al. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering. None of this would be possible without Al's British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team Brit is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Well, some very welcome adverts through reference Team Brit, one of the most inspirational teams. I actually am working with them in some respects. I worked with them back as their original press officer when they first started out in 2015, and it's so great that they've just announced Neris Hughes as their most recent driver added to their roster, and she's been put through her paces. A big thank you also, I think, from their side to Abby Eaton and Max Coates, who have been getting Neris up to speed. And she's joining the likes of Maddie Street, Andy Tucker, and Bobby Trundley, who will be racing in Britcar this year. So, but also don't forget, if you do want to find out about any information about Simply Race, go to simplyrace.co.uk. Obviously, the Simply Race Endurance Series and the British Championships, there will be news on those in the coming weeks. Obviously, Simply Race is now back open, up and running with social distancing, reference the current situation regarding COVID-19. Very much in effect, and it's great to hear that they're back up and running as well. And a big thank you to Mike Yao for being our broadcast director this evening. But Phil, we go into our final race before a lengthy 4-week break, which means you can actually have a breather.
Yeah, I think I need it. I've only had 2 races tonight.
Well, I think in the words of one particular song, well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, no, definitely not.
But I just think in many respects, this will just really see off the first half of the season in the right way possible. But also when you think about who really will come to the fore in race 3, we've talked about Sancho Simsport with Lewis McGlade and also Dan Kell. You know, those are going to be 2 drivers that we really, really need to look out for. I mean, I think really it could have been a bit more of a better turn of fortunes, hopefully, for Kings Racing. But obviously with Mitchell and Nichols, they've not had the best run of luck. They've both been involved in incidents. Over the first 2 races, obviously Scott came back in race 2. Jack had a bit of a resurgence too, but then race 1 for him was a bit of a no-goer, and it was sort of like, well, I'm going to have to now lick my wounds and come back fighting. And I'm sure that we're going to see that from those 2 Mercedes in race 3 very, very shortly.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm expecting a lot of comeback drivers in race 3, and again with the success ballast being redistributed. They've gone again. Redistributed. There we go. It's going to be even more exciting. We've had 2 cracking races so far. Really, 2 brilliant races this evening, and it's been great to watch and catch my breath in between each one. I'm sitting on the edge of the seat, really enjoying this and thinking, what else can they throw at us? We've still got 1 race to go, and it's the reverse grid race. Historically, in any touring car meeting, a reverse grid race is always the most exciting one of the day, and they say the best till last. So yeah, the 2 Blue Fords I'm expecting to come back through. I'm looking at the 2 Kings Racing Mercedes, also wondering what Toby Davis can do as well. I feel he deserves some sort of high to go out on today before the end of the summer break. Like I say, Silverstone race 3, Thruxton race 3, he was really in the mix. He was looking good for a top 5 finish, and also again in race 1 today here at Oulton. So I'm hoping he can salvage at least a top 10 if it's possible. And as we've seen from the starts of the last 2 races, the run into Old Hall, down through Cascades, trying to get out of Ireland in one go, even as far around as Knickerbrook, to see if the field can stream itself out and how much contact we've had. And then we've also seen some brilliant overtaking moves into Druids, which is one of the fastest corners on the circuit, and it's not normally when you'd see overtaking take place on. So these guys are throwing everything in both of these races at each other. They're really having a go for the points and the positions to try and go out on that high before the summer break.
So we are fast approaching the last part of the final warm-up session here at Oulton Park for the what's going to be the inevitable conclusion of the first half of the season. And right, that's absolutely fine. So what we're just finding out is that there will be a very, very expectant grid in terms of competition. So we're just basically there's going to be a little bit of time added to the warm-up itself. So effectively we will wait and see how the grid will pan out for race 3 here at Oulton Park for the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch, your commentators. For those wondering about the rest of the calendar, the 18th of August we head to Snetterton 300 for round 6. It's Croft on the 1st of September for round 7. Then it's up north of the border to Knockhill for round 8 on the 15th of September. Silverstone will host now I need to get my full team.
That's it. Give him a click. That's it.
The penultimate round was the words I was looking for there. Round 9 on the 29th of September, and then we finish it in true British Touring Car Championship style with round 10 at Brands Hatch Grand Prix on the 13th of October. But obviously, Phil, this is your first real opportunity of being in a commentary position. How do you like it in comparison with normally writing about touring cars? Be honest.
I'm loving it. I am honestly loving it.
And no, that's not an advert for McDonald's.
No, it's not. No, I promise. And their new triple-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich that may be on.
Is that the extra large meal that you get?
That's the extra large meal, yeah. That comes with a little model Subaru as well. No, I'm truly loving it. I'm really grateful to obviously to Mike and yourself giving me the chance to have a go at this. A bit of an honesty thing for me. So as a child watching motorsport as I was back in the 80s, it was all about Murray Walker and James Hunt on telly, or Murray Walker on his own, depending on what motorsport I was watching, and hearing his voice as well as watching the racing for me was what made motorsport so exciting. Even if you had a McLaren dominating a race in a Formula 1 Grand Prix back then and by miles, he was still making the racing exciting. So it was an aim or a dream at one stage to try and go down the commentary route. That never really happened. I love my writing, don't get me wrong. I really enjoy writing and publishing my articles about touring car racing. I get such a kick from that. But having the chance to do this alongside yourself, Alex, obviously we've worked together for the last couple of years as we have, it's just a great laugh. I'm really enjoying it, and I cannot wait for more opportunities. So I'm really happy to be given the opportunity to see the season out with yourselves, potentially with another set of teeth when we come back after the summer break. We'll see how we go with that. It's brilliant. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, but I really do appreciate your wonderful comments there, Phil. I mean, it was a pleasure to get you on board for round 2, and then you were quite nervous then, but then you've now got into your stride, and Phil and I have been talking off air quite a bit. I mean, we're very good friends aside from the motorsport side of things. That you've got family that are watching right now as well, I believe. Is that right?
So my understanding is that the wife, if she's still awake, if I haven't bored her to sleep, as she tells me, will be watching.
Bless.
And also my middle son is really into watching as well, and my youngest son as well. They love this. I share them afterwards. I daren't show them live because I won't notice it at the time, but it's great fun. But the feedback I've had from family and friends about doing this and saying to be honest, and it's my first time and everything, it's been lovely feedback from them. So really enjoying it, and also the support I'm getting from it, and also the chance to commentate alongside yourself as well.
Thank you very much, my friend. Right, let's go on to the third and final grid. Now, I see that Scott Mitchell is going to start from the pit lane. We're on the formation lap, so it looks like we have... This is your running order, or starting order. It's Tom Edmonds and Ben Brown on the front row of the grid, ahead of Aidan Millward and Ben Willis in the 67 and 85 respectively. Then we go to 5th place. It's Max Tad and Scott Sovic. Chris Butcher and Mike Bell will round out the top 4 rows, ahead of Kieran Shanks and Sam Fowler. We've then got Matt Richards and Costas Avram, Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols rounding out the top 7 rows, ahead of Sean King, Lewis McGlade, Dan Kell, Chris Wilson, and also got Sandro Ballesteros and Toby Davis rounding out the top 20. Bill Morby and Max Spooner complete the top 11 rows, ahead of Daniel Slattery, Bradley Brockies and Daniel Hyde. So we will have 25 drivers on the grid. So pretty good lineup there, eh, Phil?
It's going to be a cracker. I think personally from race 2, I get the sense that there's going to be a few red mist dries here. From the blue Fords. I'm looking for something from Edmonds because he managed to take the race 3 win at Thruxton after Kieran Shanks took the first 2 race wins there. So yeah, definitely looking for something there, but I'm expecting the blue Fords to come through, looking for a Toby Davis comeback drive, the Kings Racing Mercedes, seeing if they can go out at the end of this first half of the season on the high. And I'm expecting lots of contact and a very busy first lap. I don't think I'm going to be let down somehow.
I don't think either of us will be let down in many respects. So we are waiting just for the grid to form up, and we will hopefully be speaking, if we can, to some of our top 3 post race 3 here. We don't speak to everyone as we are off and away. That's a great start from Aidan Millward. He's just done a textbook Turkington, and there is Willis around the outside as they go into Old Hall for the very first time. And there is the headlight, the headlight assassin that is Mr. Max Tad. Well, actually, that should be now to Tom Edmonds as Tad throws it round the outside. How did he get that one done through Denton's? I cannot believe it, and managed to make it stick through Cascades.
That was impressive stuff. That really was the obligatory road marker going flying. You've got to expect it, but a great start from Millward and from Tad as well to make up the position. You've got Chris Butcher already trying to see if he can capitalise on Ben Willis, trying around the outside of the island hairpin. It doesn't look as though he's got the run. In fact, yeah, Willis is staying ahead. With Kieran Shanks also having a go at Matt Bell further back as well. Side by side into his lots. We'll see how this one scopes out. And it looks as though everyone's played nice so far. We haven't got any contacts or side by side pushing anyone off at the moment. Although Costa Sanfran, I think, just behind with Sam Burrows even. We'll have to see on that one. In fact, yeah, there we go. And Lewis McGlade, I think, also involved in there as well. Sam Fowler, sorry. So yeah, Avram is being held to the outside at Druids, which is the worst place to be. McGlade on the inside with Avram. They've sorted themselves out just about as they're coming into Lodge Corner. Although I think, yep, McGlade's going to go for a clean inside. It looks as though it's slightly wide on the outside of the corner. Avram's been pushed to the outside, but meanwhile, Max Tad is chasing Tom Edmonds, and I think we're looking potentially at a repeat for race 1. Could Tad take a win on this one?
Well, it's been 2 different winners so far here at Oulton Park, and I think if it makes it a 3rd different winner, then that's going to really spice things up, because you want it where as many people have an opportunity to win as humanly possible. But Max Tad just really trying to put Tom Edmonds under pressure, and I know Tom very, very well through his adventures through senior Rotax. Met the guy last year at Kartmasters. As there goes Dan Kell up the inside of Costas Avram. Jack Nichols up into P12. So Nichols now sensing an opportunity. And we've seen it before. He's come back through the field. And then there has been either an incident that he has been involved in or an incident that is not of his making, where it puts the number 29 Kings Racing Mercedes out to dry. I mean, case in point, obviously he had the incident in race 1, didn't he, going into Druids, and he's gone 2 wheels on the grass, kicking up the dust, heading in towards Druids, but he's kept it nicely planted, and he's up into P13 now. So Dan Kell is ahead, and then Costas Avram has now got the headlights on ablaze.
And I also notice Max Tad's got them as well. He's looking to try and get the inside of Tom Edmonds for Old Hall. In fact, can he get the inside light? He's done it. Slightly outbraking himself, slightly sideways, but he's done a cracking move into Lee there. Sorry, Alex, to cut across you. Was it looks as though it's kicking off behind?
It happens all the time in commentary. You don't need to apologise, Phil. Oh, now, Aidan Millward's just had a moment. He's dropped down like a stone. Now, Millward was, and that is Shanks.
Yeah.
So Shanks has gone off. So drama, so more topsy-turviness here. I think it's got more twist than the never-ending story, this race 3. As Fowler, McGlade definitely having a bit more contretemps. Right, okay, let's have a look at the replay.
So this should explain this.
Now, Shanks has barreled into the back of Millward, which spat him out and threw him into Butcher, and it's put Millward 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Oh,
superb avoidance there by Nichols and Avram.
Cat-like reflexes from the rest of the field, and again, Dan Kell getting his elbows out well and truly. I see it in karting all the time, but then you see it in touring cars and it just goes another level. And there goes Kell up the inside of the number 27, Sam Fowler, who won one of our races earlier on this evening. So he won one, Richards won the other, and at the moment Max Tad could make it 3 from 3. Now here is, this is Shanks, and that is Mike Bell. Oh, now Shanks has, Richards has managed to pants up the inside there, like a rat up a drain pipe, and did a really, really good job of just making sure he avoided at the absolute opportune moment. And we already have 4 DNFs. Scott Mitchell, Ben Brown, Daniel Slattery, and Toby Davis didn't even make it into the first race. So it's just been absolutely crazy thus far. So we're down to 21 out of 25 drivers. Scott Sovic trying to close up on Lewis McGlade, and this is for 7th position. Max Tad now starting to stretch the legs on the BMW from SRR Motorsport in the 35. He's now over 8.5 tenths of a second ahead of Tom Edmonds. Ben Willis rounds out the top 3. Chris Butcher and Matt Richards round out the top 5. And coming into it, as here is Jack Nicholls. He's got Costas Avram breathing down the back of the Mercedes' tailpipes. And this could be very, very close indeed as Avram tries to go up the inside there. And in many respects, that could be. Okay, so I've just been sent a message by Toby Davis. Someone actually took him out on lap 1. Those were his words to me. So there was an incident involving Toby Davis on the very first lap. But now we are captivated by this battle, which is now going to be Shanks versus Avram, and that is with the former in 12th position. So Avram's now going to defend against the onslaught of the might of the Boxer engine Subaru, with Jack Nicholls now starting to break away by about half a second or so. So this could be quite an interesting battle, but if Nicholls keeps up this sort of pace, I mean, he's running at a 1 minute 27.8, but he's 1.3 seconds down off of Sam Fowler in terms of lap pace. He's got a lot of work to do, as Jack Nicholls.
He should be able to see if he can keep it clean, and if Avram and Shanks keep fighting there as they are. I mean, they're allowing Morby to close up on the pair of them as well. We've already seen how much fun Phil's had this evening in the Subaru. So if Avram and Shanks are fighting with each other, it's giving Nicholls a chance to break away slightly. He just needs to keep it clean. I think he needs a really good clean final race of the evening to have a better start. So here we go with the start with Toby Davis and Sandro Ballesteros. Yep, going on the inside into Old Hall. And it's 3 wide contact. It's never going to work, unfortunately, and that's just sent. Yeah, it's just unfortunately he's caught the grass and it's just ended the day there. So no, a complete mare of a start, I think, is the only way you can cause it, and then it carries on afterwards to Denton's and into Cascade. So an unfortunate end to the race for Toby Davis himself, and hopefully he'll come back stronger when we come back after the summer break. In the meantime, Shanks seems to have gotten past Avram and will now be hunting down Nicholls. So a stern challenge for Jack to see if he can hold off the Subaru, although Avram's not out of this just yet, as Shanks goes very sideways around Island Bend, trying to see if he can use the rear wheel drive advantage, but it's not worked out for him just yet. Nicholls is still ahead as they go down towards Hislops and the Knickerbrook chicane, holding it nice and clean. Shanks is pushing everything. That Subaru is actually almost as sideways as Phil Morby's was in the last race. So Shanks is really pushing hard to see if he can get himself back up the order.
Yeah, very, very much the case, as I think this is going to just keep on going. And as I think you'll probably like this one, Phil. As Spinal Tap once said, let's crank the volume up to 11. Well, I think they've actually surpassed that in this particular race, let alone. There's Chris Butcher, still in 3rd place, as Drago Racing's Ben Willis still in 4th, battling away with Matt Richards from Sancho Simsport in the number 4 Blue Ford Focus. And Richards really keeping with the rear-wheel drive machinery. Now that is think that's Bell that's gone wide. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bell's
it's
gone
Bell.
wide through Old Hall on the approach down the avenue, down Denton's, through into Cascades. Not exactly what you really want in any sort of form of imagination there, but you want to make sure that you don't want to go grass tracking, because if it's a front-wheel drive machine. Right, here's another replay that we've got Sandro Ballesteros. Now he's gone in. Oh, he's ripped the. Oh, now
Yeah.
that car is not. That was a front bumper rip-off, and then all of a sudden the bumper magically reappeared.
Yes. Magic of sim racing, if you will. But,
yeah, but I'll thank you to Mike Yao, our broadcast director, saying it is definitely missing. So yeah, that was I think a bit too much curb. Yeah, there you see it.
yes, that's
So like
definitely
now
missing a big
now
hole
you
at the
don't
front.
see the gap. Now you do see it, and he's got Bradley Brockies, his teammate, just behind, and I think that Ballesteros will lose out that place very, very shortly. You can just see the amount of battle scars that these cars have had, as Nichols battling away with Avram, as Shanks has got past Nichols for P11. Mercedes not really faring as well as possibly some of us might have expected, you and myself included, Phil. We were
Definitely.
hoping for a good run from them, but Nichols still having a much better outing here in race 3, as we're now on to lap number 8 out of 15, as Nichols goes through into the left-hander at Cascades, up towards Lakeside and then Island Bend, as Edmonds has got past Butcher for P2. So they've swapped positions. Richards again, and now you can see how close Willis and Richards are, Phil. This has really changed things in terms of this race now.
It has, and I'm going to throw in another one. So we've had the triple-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich, and we've got the freight train Fords as they're working together. I'll copyright that one later.
Triple-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich, and now the freight train Fords.
Yep, I'm going for it tonight.
Oh,
Teeth are working.
you know what? I'm happy to let you do that, mate. I mean, it saves my voice a little bit too.
But yeah, Richards is pushing Willis hard, and behind you've got Lewis McGlade and Dan Kell working together, and this is almost like race 2, where the Astras are working together. Richards now pushing Willis to see if he can grab 4th place off of him on the run to Old Hall, but you've got the Fords working together as I suspected they would be, really working together. The two of them at least, McGlade and Carroll, running line astern, not trying to pass each other, allowing the slipstream effect to just push them both along. 2 cars aerodynamically being better as one. And in the meantime, Richards is making his way forward, although he seems to have come to not to a stop, but he's finding a more sterner challenge from Ben Willis as we come into the island hairpin, and it's allowed the other 2 Fords to come forward. So I'm almost expecting in the next couple of laps another classic example of some NASCAR bump drafting from the blue Fords. In the meantime, Butcher is running in 3rd behind Tom Edwards, who was the early race leader. Max Tad is building a gap, 1.2 seconds at the moment, so he's managing to stay in front of Edmonds. And again, we've got it's this building up to a lovely crescendo. You've got Butcher closing to Edmonds. Willis is being hounded by Richards. Behind Richards, you've got Keller McGlade closing up. And this is the top 7 running just under 4 seconds apart. You can see them almost in the same straight. Tad at the moment seems to be the safest position, I would say. He says just as the gap drops down to 1 second, just over. But with Butcher chasing Edmonds, Richards being chasing down Willis, and Keller McGlade closing in, I think we're cracking up to a really good end to this race.
Very much the case, as there was a couple of 11s there from Chris Butcher locking up going into Old Hall there, but he's still keeping 3rd. But one of the more impressive things I see here, Phil, is that on the last lap, Tom Edmonds and Chris Butcher were exactly nigh on the same lap time by just a thousandth of a second. That's how close Chris Butcher is really. And now you're getting we're getting a train of cars, and at the back of it at the moment, it is Sam Fowler, our race 1 winner from this evening, yellow in sector 1. So there has been a bit of a moment, I think, for somebody a little bit further back. Behind this, you've got Bell in 9th, Shanks, Nichols, Avram, Sovic, Millward, Morby, Spooner in the number 63 Team Brit entry, now in 16th position. As we've also got the likes, as you can now see, those freight train Fords, they'll keep on trucking.
Yeah.
And two of them are right on the back bumper of Ben Willis for what is P4. So you've got Richards and Kell, McGlade, Bell, Fowler, and then Bell and Shanks. That's the top 10. Again, it's just the team numbers game is just literally in full effect, and they'll like be sort of. I can see via the Discord server that a long wheelbase transit made up of 3 freight train Focuses there.
See, it works so well. It does just work so well. Tonight's been brilliant.
The thing is, it's brand association, isn't it? You know, the Transit, one of the most popular commercial vehicles of all time. As up the inside. That is...
it's Dan Kell passing Matt Richards.
I
think there's a bit of tactics being played here, potentially, to try and get past Willis. I fear Willis is about to lose out to the Ford freight train. It works either way around. The 12-wheelbase Ford Transit van. If you see one of them, let us know.
I'm going to make another film reference here. That Ben Willis is the Bandit, and then you got
yes.
And then you got Cletus, made up of the 3 Sancho Simsport cars.
It is indeed. It is indeed. In the meantime, Kieran Shanks is managed to get past Bell and take 9th place. There you go. Kell's past Willis.
Dan Kell sending it up the inside through Drewers and then makes the move pretty much completed before the Warwick Bridge. And now, if I'm honest with you here, the person that's most at risk of losing a position is Matt Richards. Look how close Sam Fowler is on the back bumper of the number 4 Ford Focus from Sancho Simsport. And you can just see now that McGlade is looking to size up Willis for up the inside through Old Hall and neatly makes the move stick. I think Ben Willis knew it was coming and decided, well, he's got the run on me. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to move out the way, and now I can counter-attack. And he's right. He's about a couple of car lengths behind, going through Cascades and up to Lakeside as McGlade runs a little bit wide there.
Indeed, if he can get the run up there to the island bend, in fact, he's ideally placed. Although right behind has come Fowler and Richards and closed right up on him, so that's held up Willis a little bit and given McGlade a bit of free space. The Subaru's shown in previous races this evening, it's ideally placed with the rear-wheel drive to get the better drive out of the island bend. As we come into his lots and the Knickerbrook chicane again, Richards holding off Fowler. He's fallen back a little bit, whether that was team tactics or just genuine passing with faster cars coming through, but he's now the final Ford to try and get past Ben Willis, as the other two have done, and they've been able to make a break for it and start to further close up, as we're on board with Aidan Millward in the BMW, coming up to Scott Sovic, who's had an interesting return, I think you could say. He's running currently in 13th place. Millward just running behind him to see if he can try and capitalise as Sovic goes slightly wide under the Warwick Bridge. Coming into Lodge Corner, as it looks as though that's Scott Nichols going very wide. So Sovic,
you've done that again. It's Jack Nichols, and he locked up. But I'm just going to cut across you here for a second, because Max Tad and Tom Edmonds, about half a lap ago, were swapping the lead, and Tad lost a differential to about nearly half a second. So Edmonds' is leading as Millward is taking advantage of Jack Nichols running wide. And here is the battle for the lead. They are literally side by side going through the approach into Island Bend. And now we have a 4, maybe even make that a 5-way scrap for the eventual victory here. It could be 3 from 3. Or if Richards gets his way, or if Kell, it could be Edmonds, it could be Tad, it could be Butcher, it could be Kell, as we see Nichols and Millward down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screens, battling over what is 13th position with Scott Sovic just up ahead. But Tad has got the headlights ablaze, and so they were doing reverse psych jobs on each other. They've both got the headlights ablaze at the front of the field. And Tad is, I think that's his, oh no you don't sunshine sort of tactic there. And you can just see both rear-wheel drive cars starting to scrabble for traction. Kell going towards the inside of Butcher to take P3. So nice work there by Dan Kell. But Butcher sends it back up the inside through into Lodge Corner. And through Deer Leap, he manages to latch onto the back bumper of the Zancho Simsport Focus, heading into Old Hall, as Butcher gets a little bit tail happy there in the Vauxhall Astra, as that is one of the E-Team Brit cars that has just been passed. I think that is Sandro Ballesteros heading into pit lane to end his race a little bit earlier than anticipated. He's just pitted in. I think that's going to be a retirement that will put us down to 20 runners and riders. The best effort at the moment for E-Team Brit will be Max Spooner in the 63. He's actually behind Jack Nichols, as that's a great move by Fowler up the inside, just sort of doing a bit of door rubbing there with Matt Richards up the inside, up into P7. So Edmonds now has a comfortable, well, I wouldn't call it a comfortable, but a negligibly comfortable lead over Max Tad as he runs wide but keeps the throttle planted in the BMW, and Tad now will get the opportunity to get past. He does. Great job there by the number 30, by the number 89. And we haven't, there's one talking point that we've had in the first two races, as there is a yellow flag in Sector 3. Now there is somebody off, and that was an E-Team Brit car, I believe.
Yeah, it was. It is.
So I think that might be Bradley Brocky's, if I'm very much mistaken. So that's put the yellows out in Sector 3. We're on to the lap number 4. Well, we're actually, I think, we're on to the final lap here. That's how quickly this evening has gone for the pair of us.
And it's not over yet, because Kel's pushing Edmonds for the lead.
Oh, Kel's gone fighty all of a sudden. He's trying to do a Tyson Fury in many respects, trying to knock out his opponent and deal that overhand right to Tom Edmonds. As Tad locks up big time under the brakes going through Island Bend, and now you're going to see it's all going to explode like a mushroom cloud very, very shortly, because right behind us they go down through Hilltop down towards Hislops and Knickerbrook for the final time. Edmonds has hung on to this by the absolute skin of his teeth. Kel's trying to force the issue. Tad's up there behind him as well. Oh, this is going to get really tasty round about now. Kel runs wide. Tad gets the inside run on the Focus. And look at Chris Butcher. He's got put two wheels on the grass as they're absolutely squabbling over the scraps. And now, up the inside, that's through Druids. Butcher back into P3 as they go under the Warwick Bridge. And it is all for themselves for the victory here at race number 3. We could get 3 from 3 if we will get 3 from 3 in terms of the race winners. But oh no, Edmonds goes wide. It's 3 abreast. Who's going to get the lead? Has Chris Butcher got it? Chris Butcher, I think, has just taken it. Oh my goodness, but he wins it. That's a brilliant, that's a grandstand finale, Phil. I never saw that coming. Now, that was a bit cheeky there, Max Tad. Don't run into the back of Dan Kell after the finish line, I'm afraid. But Chris Butcher wins race 3 here at Thruxton. I didn't know how it was going to go, and I thought someone would come a cropper there, Phil. And unfortunately, it was Tom Edmonds.
Unfortunately so. And after all the hard work he's done at the start, and also battling with Tad during the race when it was just the pair of them. But it's panned out. It was building for the last 4 or 5 laps.
Right,
that finish.
okay.
Let's have a look here to explain.
So you got Kell on the outside of Tad, and there was
contact from Taz. Unfortunately, the back of Edmonds has sent him round.
Tad on Edmonds, and it's just like literally unsettled the back end of the Subaru. And now, right, okay. Now this is a great slow-mo. This is really catchy. Now,
it's a contact between
Kell and Fowler.
And Kell.
And then Tad taps the back end, and that's enough to unsettle the Subaru. And then
but it's also held up the fall of the BMW, because that's where Chris Butcher has then managed to come round the outside of them. Kell on the outside on the grass, Tad trying to control it in the middle, McGlade coming through, and then Butcher's managed to get the best of it and come across to take the win.
I think, as Tom Coronel would always say, Mamma Mia.
That was impressive. That was
a Mamma Mia moment, and I'm sure that Chris Butcher is thanking his lucky stars that he is the 3rd respective winner this evening. But Chris Butcher takes an exciting grandstand finale victory here for the 3rd and final race here at Oulton Park for the 5th round of the 2020 VMO TCUK Championship. Chris Butcher wins ahead of Lewis McGlade, with Dan Kell making it in the Zancho Simsport 2-3. Max Tad in 4th ahead of Ben Willis from Drake Racing. Sam Fowler in 6th. Matt Richards in 7th. Kieran Shanks, Mike Bell, and the recovering Tom Edmonds rounding out the top 10. And then it was FMP's Costas Avram in 11th, Scott Sovic in 12th ahead of Aidan Millward, Jack Nichols in 14th ahead of E-Team Brits Max Spooner. So I think by my reckoning that is another point on the board for E-Team Brit this season. And funnily enough, it had to be their team manager. Sean King in 16th, Chris Wilson in 17th ahead of Daniel Hyde, Phil Morby. Sandro Ballesteros would end up a lap down off of the leaders, as would Bradley Brocky. So a trio of finishers for E-Team Brit with Scott Mitchell, Ben Brown, Daniel Slattery, and Toby Davis DNFing on that. But hopefully we should be able, I'm hoping that we will be able to, in a short time, if we can, to speak to our top 3 very, very shortly, depending if they are with us. But Phil, your thoughts after what was a really intense race 3 here at Oulton Park?
It's just been fantastic. It's proper close racing. A lot of people, as I was expecting, making drives forward, especially the Ford Freight Train. I'm stealing that now and copywriting that for over the summer. But yeah, the 3-4 focuses, working as a team, and I think it's the best I've seen out there, the 3 of them working together, making their way forwards from the poor grid positions that they ended up from their conch top in race 2. But they made it work. Whether there was tactical passing or not, I can't say. But the overtaking that took place, and then being able to allow the cars to come forward, and you could see it building. Like I was saying, the last 4 or 5 laps, the cars were closing up. You had the first 6 or 7 cars staying together, trying to get through together, and closing up at places like the hairpin, and also coming through Druids at the end of the lap. So you could see something was going to build towards the end of the race, and we were just treated to a 5-car finish that unfortunately ended the way it did. I feel really bad for Tom Edmonds having been spun out, but Chris Butcher breaks the rear-wheel drive winning streak as far as today's races are.
Well, now that we've got him with us, congratulations, Chris Butcher. That was a hell of a few last laps there here at Oulton for race 3, wouldn't you admit?
Yeah, that is probably the most insane finish to a race I've had in my career. I would probably say.
But, I mean, you just kept it really, really calm and composed all the way through, you know, seeing Tom and Max battle away like tooth and nail. And I know that, you know, it's not been easy for you guys at Smart Power Racing. You know, the rear-wheel drives have secured 2 victories this evening, but you've managed to break that with the Vauxhall Astra. Just from your perspective, when you saw the contact between Kell and Tad, and then obviously seeing Tom Edmonds spinning around, I mean, that must have you just thought, I've got this opportunity, I can thread the eye through the needle, and I've got a gap, and you literally took advantage of it quite fastidiously there.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured out that, you know, I obviously saw him battling all the way through the last lap and kind of thought it might kick off a little bit. But coming up to the last corner, I thought, you know, I've got to be on the inside here because there was Kell and McGlade behind me. So yeah, I just pinned it to the inside, and obviously it all kind of kicked off in front of me, and you know, I just kind of pointed my car where Edmonds had been, so I knew I wasn't going to get involved with it, and got a decent drive out of the corner, and thankfully it paid off for me.
Well done, congratulations. Obviously, there's I know that in the world of sim racing, I know that you're racing obviously with the E-Team Brit GT Challenge, which goes to Le Mans this coming Friday, but obviously now for VMO, it takes a bit of a breather for the next 4 weeks. You're going to be putting a few hours in ahead of Snetterton on the 18th of August?
Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, the new tyres have helped things a little bit, but obviously the Subaru and the BMW, still quick cars, decent drivers in them, and the Zansho guys have got... looks like they've got a pretty decent setup underneath them, so we need to kind of knuckle under and you know, try and improve ours, and hopefully we'll be a bit more up at the pointy end.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Our race 3 winner here at Oulton Park, Chris Butcher.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll speak to Zancho Simsports' Dan Kell. Dan, I've just been having a word with Chris about that skirmish towards the line, as I think I'm going to call it. 5 of you battling away. That must have been heart-in-the-mouth moments for all of you guys. And obviously we saw the little bit of contact where you went side by side with Max, and there was a little bit of contact between you. But then Max then turned Tom Edmonds around. How do you feel that that's sort of helped in terms of? I think it was third place that you ended up just behind Lewis because they're waiting in the wings. Just give us from your account how it sort of unfolded from your perspective being behind Tom.
Yeah, it's so annoying because like just coming up through the field, I felt like I had so much pace, and last 2 laps I was like, I can win this, and then going down to the hairpin, yeah, I felt like maybe Tom just backed off a little bit on the apex. I was like, oh, okay, he's going to defend this quite hard. Then at the chicane, got a bit argy-bargy there and dropped back to P4, and then it sort of going at the final corner, it just seemed to open up. So I just went around the outside, left Max the room at the apex, and then caused the contact with Tom. He had to swerve out of the way to avoid Tom, which in turn hit into me and put me on the grass, which was very annoying. But for get P3 from, I think started P17, I'm well happy with that.
Yeah, that's. I think it's very it's very good when you have that kind of result. And if that had been a win, I think that just would have been that little bit sweeter there as well in many respects.
Yeah, definitely. I was hoping the win, but podium, that'll do me, considering what happened in race 2 as well with the incident. But yeah, that's P3. I'll take it. It should help the championship points with a 4th and a 3rd tonight.
Okay, well done, Dan. We'll see you in 4 weeks' time at Snetterton 300 on the 18th of August.
Yep. See you.
Well, I think that is pretty much it. That's time. Phil, your final thoughts as we close up business here at the virtual recreation of Oulton Park.
Can we come back and do this next week? Oh,
Not
Park. I'm just asking. It's been so much fun this evening. It's been brilliant.
Has anyone got a saucepan in the vicinity?
Yeah. I'll start running now. No, it's been a great evening's racing. Once again, really enjoyed everything. Some close-knit racing, and some cleaner racing, I think, as well. Apart from some of the mistakes we saw in races 1 and 2, with race 3 seemed to be a lot cleaner. Even with regards to passing and cars moving forward. It's been brilliant, absolutely wonderful, just what you expect from touring car racing. It's been another perfect example of what I love seeing and why I love watching this. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with myself for the next 4 weeks until we can come back and have another go at this.
You're going to have to do a hell of a lot of writing then, mate.
Yeah, I think I am. I'm going to have to wait for the other real life series I follow to try and replicate some of this. And they've got some pretty high bars to match, so I'll be warning the promoters and commentators of those series. But no, it's been wonderful so far, and I really am looking forward to seeing how teams and drivers use the 4 weeks away, what they can improve, what they can change, and how they come back for after the summer break at Snetterton on the 300 circuit. That's going to be another cracking race.
Indeed, 3 more races there. Then we'll have 3 at Croft on the 1st of September, 3 at Knockhill on the 15th of September, and then the penultimate round at Silverstone on the 29th of September before we crown our inaugural VMO Touring Car UK champion at Brands Hatch Grand Prix on the 13th of October. On behalf of Phil Kinch and myself, Alex Goldschmidt, thank you ever so much for watching, and we will see you at Snetterton in just 4 weeks' time. Have a lovely evening, and above all, stay safe.